Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, and a happy July 4th to everybody out there. Hope you're listening to Inside the Birds, whether you're at the shore, maybe at the Poconos, barbecuing at home. I think I said last podcast, Adam, we could be like a way better version of elevator music. We could be your holiday soundtrack today if you are out enjoying the wonderful holiday and you wanted to get some Eagles talk in, right?
Sure. No doubt. I mean, if you're at the poolside, or, as you said, or the beach, if you need an hour to kill, this is it here. This is our shows where they used to be,
right
when we started. For those of you who are new to our show last year or two, our first 2 years where shows were 30, 35 minutes. And then we got a lot of complaints. What is with you guys? Expand. I'm like, okay, because we were told that the best podcasts are 30, 35 minutes. And then what happened was we put a poll 3 years ago on our message board on Facebook. Yeah. And we got hundreds of replies. And I would say 99% of them, except the 1% that didn't, one I'm sure made a good point where we don't want to ramble. We know every once in a while we ramble a little bit, but make a long story short.
A little bit.
Yeah. People made it clear they want longer podcasts. Okay. Well, it's informational. You don't want to rush through stuff. So
that's right.
It's we're generally between 50 and 100 and an hour and 10. So
well, we're going to answer a lot of questions today. And there are some really good questions that are pertinent to the Eagles. So it's going to be it's going to wind up being an informational podcast anyway, even though it's an Ask ITB version, because we've got a lot of info that I think in our answers that are going to help people. So again, look forward to doing this. Hope everybody's enjoying their holiday as well. Make sure you continue to check out InsideTheBirds.com. We've got a lot of great content up there. Andrew DeCecco has been doing a great off-season recap series. So please make sure you're looking at that. Hope everybody enjoyed the last newsletter. Had a little bit of a different look and design, added some new categories, answered some questions. You can continue to submit Ask ITB questions to the newsletter. There's a link in the newsletter for it, and then we will answer those questions in the newsletter to give our subscribers a little bit extra special, extra content. And we're getting a real kick out of this. So we've started up, as we told you on the podcast, we started up a TikTok account a couple of weeks ago. Big thanks to our intern, Jesse, who has really spearheaded that, Jesse P. And we recently had a TikTok video go over 1,400 views. Now, if you haven't seen it, you should go. But I'm just telling you now, it's not me and Adam doing any synchronized dances. All right, that's not what it is.
I'm gonna download it now. I'm gonna download the TikTok app. Now you say this.
Yeah, I never thought we'd be on TikTok, and I always knew if we were, we would not be dancing.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
isn't TikTok for the younger demographic?
It is for the younger demographic. It is. Yeah.
And, I know people make fun of Juju Smith-Schuster. I know people are like
Christian Kirk.
Right. Well, the one with Juju was, in fact, I guess they're so goofy. Mm-hmm. Eagle fans were like, "Don't want him. I don't like him on TikTok." I'm like, "Oh God, okay."
Well, apparently we're okay though, because we had 1,400 views on one. Before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this, I have to ask. We intentionally do not discuss stuff like this on the podcast, so I'm not gonna spend more than 2 seconds of it. But Are you a little surprised, I guess, by the reaction to Miles Sanders telling John Clark that he said something like, "This feels like an all-star team," and that has caused stir among the Eagle fan community about, this sounds like Vince Young and the Dream Team, it certainly made for some fodder on Sports Talk Radio going back to last Thursday. But I look at something said in June on like, this feels like an all-star. I think it's kind of harmless. Maybe it's because Miles Sanders said it and people think Miles has not reached a level of expectation. I don't know, but there were some people in a tizzy about it.
Well, if you recall, the Dream Team was in. You and I were at training camp that day. I know. I'm pretty certain you were.
Yep, I was there.
Yep, and I was. And when he said it, I just thought it was an innocuous comment. I didn't think anything of it because they accumulated.
Yes.
a lot of talent coming out of lockout, which is
Sure.
because remember the free agency was pushed again. It was like it was it after training camp started? Right before? Do you remember?
Well, I don't, man, my memory is not great on this, but I think the offseason started later because there was, the offseason because of the lockout, right?
There was no lot. Yeah, well, there's no offseason because the lockout took up the entire
So
offseason.
once, and you remember, this is the year that they get Namdi, right, where nobody saw that kind of coming, and that was right before camp because that's the free agent period began. So they get Namdi, they trade for Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, they signed Colin Jenkins, they're bringing in who's the running back? Ronnie Brown.
Yeah.
They bring in.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And Mike Vick is there.
If you recall that Colin Jenkins was very critical of the effort and the issues with the club. Like he's a high character, by the book, this is the way we do things kind of guy. And he had real problems with some of the effort and the attitudes of the roster. Jason Babin was there, Mr. Sack. You mentioned the Namdi signing. They beat out the Jets for it, where Rex Ryan went off. He was pissed off about it. Asante was there. DRC, the Kevin Cobb trade coming right out of the lockout to the Cardinals. Yeah, Sonoris Moss. Remember Sonoris Moss?
Oh yeah, I remember Sonoris Moss. I forgot he was on it. Yeah,
he was in August. I don't know. And then Chad Hall's now maybe certainly one of the best receiver coaches in the league.
Right.
The Trevor Laws was there, a guy who never really made it. Like he made it briefly, but then never became the player they thought when they got him off Washington, when they claimed him off waivers. Remember a guy named Antonio Dixon?
Yeah, I remember Antonio Dixon from Miami.
Big time, yep. Big time run stopper.
Yeah.
Claimed him off waivers for Washington, flashed early, and then he kind of fizzled out. Jaquay Parker, there, and it just, and Kirk Coleman, Nate Allen, of course, but Trent Cole still, in the prime of his career there. They assembled this roster of uneven parts, and it just never works. Compared to this one, where there are a lot of players who are homegrown. This is based on what we know about this team, fast forwarding, 11 years. Wow. Yeah. 11 years now. Pretty high character guys. Good mixture of youth. The Eagles have gotten a lot younger in the last 2 years of youth and some veterans. It's just that roster is heavily veteran laden. For guys who are in year 3, 4, 5, the Macklin, Cooper, Deshaun, Djax, Hermans, Peters, Jamal, King Dunlap. I mean, there's
King Dunlap. Yeah, I remember that.
Look who made big chunk of money with the Chargers.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, again, so I agree. When it was said by Vince Young, it didn't feel at the time that it was going to blow up, and of course it did, and especially as the Eagles weren't good. And the same thing with Miles Sanders. It's said in kind of passing, or it feels like this. And then it tends to take on a life of its own. I don't think it's such a big deal, but I do understand. I've even spoke to some former players about this, right? They should be more conscious of how their words are going to be construed. And you really and this is from them, not me. You really shouldn't speak. You should know better how to use your words as far as all-star team and dream team when you have not accomplished it yet there. Like when you can't talk like you've arrived when you have not arrived. And certainly these Eagles have not arrived. I mean, they have a lot to prove.
No, but the talent level, if you just one position, particularly if you compare it to last season where they had a very underwhelming roster, it's sort of a minor miracle that they made the playoffs with that roster. You look at this one, they address so many needs. It's good on paper. This looks like to be a good roster. Now, the 11 one, and by the way, Evan Mathis was signed to be a backup, if you recall, and then later he would start and be a great story. And, Kelsey was when was Kelsey drafted?
2010 or 11.
11.
Yeah, 11. Right.
6th round pick, 11. So he was actually a backup to start, well, briefly. And then,
he was a backup for like a week.
Right. And Jamal told that story, man. Jamal on our show 2 years ago told a great story how he found out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that, see, this is, remember John Dorsey, who was a consultant for the Eagles, and now he's worked for the Lions. John Dorsey's one of his many problems, why he got fired in two places, particularly with the Browns. He accumulated talent. That's not the way you win. You draft, develop, and sign free agents. You supplement them. Whereas he tried to, the OBJ trade, you just go through a bunch of scenarios where it looked like they were just accumulating talent. It's hard because it's hard to gel. Like in the NBA, you could do it. You're only starting 5 players. We're 22 players. You got to start each week. These guys got to get on the same page. It's just it's hard to do that.
No doubt about it. So we will see the fate of this Philadelphia Eagles team. I think Miles was just giving you his feel, but I do understand when former players say you got to choose your words carefully as well. So we got a lot of questions lined up. We'll get into those in a second. First, got to tell you again about our new partner. It's a partner we've been wanting for a long time now, Freestone Farms CBD. It's our favorite CBD brand because they farm it themselves with all organic inputs, and they offer you some education on what they grow and how they grow it to make the best quality products on the market. Look, we've tried different brands, but honestly, Freestone Farms CBD has been amazing. We like it after workouts to help with that, that post-workout feel, and also right before bed as we've been sleeping way better at night. So what's even more exciting is our friends at Freestone Farms just unveiled an all-new strain menu with some supremely good CBD at prices you will love. So check out FreestoneFarmsCBD.com and you'll find it all there. Trust us, it's a menu you've got to check out. They've got strains like the insane tropical tasting Bayox, clocks in at a chart topping 24.1%. And then there's the super CBD. It's a half Hindu Kush, 21%. The genetics these guys use don't get any better. Also, they grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM. Absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. After the harvest, they carefully preserve all the plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. One look or one smell is enough to know it's CBD done right. It's a product that's great for anyone looking to take a natural approach to what they put in their body. And on top of that, if you use the code ITB, you'll get 20% off at checkout. That's promo code ITB for 20% off at checkout on FreestoneFarmsCBD.com. All right. We got a lot of good questions, and I love these questions, Adam. So let's go right into it with the first one.
All right. So they're all from our Facebook community page. So we'll get started with Luke Goss. This is, and when we posted the message, we were looking for questions. We did open it up to fantasy. So this is sort of fantasy related, Luke, I'm assuming that this is fantasy related just based on the way you asked it. And it's a good question because it's going to be an issue. So this is from Luke Goss. Do you think Goedert will still average the same amount of targets each week? Or do you think the addition of AJ Brown will lower his target share? So this is the way I see that one. The pass target tree should go like this. AJ Brown 1. They're paying him to be, so he better be. He'll be 1. 2 will be Devontae Smith. 3 will be Goedert. Now, there will be games because he doesn't have to deal with Zach Ertz anymore, where he could own the middle of the field. We saw that against the Jets and Washington back-to-back, where he dominated targets, dominated big plays. He's a guy who's a very tough matchup because he's big and athletic, and he's a 3-down tight end anyway. So there'll be weeks where he could lead them in targets, but it's still going to be Brown 1, Smith 2 most weeks, Goedert 3. But there might be weeks where Goedert and Smith flip-flop in terms of the targets. So how do you see it?
So Dallas averaged about 5 receptions a game last year. If I have that, 76 targets in 15 games. So that's about 5 targets a game. And that sounds low, but you have to remember the Eagles were a run-first offense, and Dallas Goedert also wasn't the number 1 tight end on the team for the first 6 weeks of the season. So I believe that just by virtue of being the number 1 target at tight end and what we expect to be a more passing offense in year 2, it needs to be that 5 per game is more liable to jump to somewhere in the 7 to 8 target, if not more, maybe even a little more. And then the 6 to 8 receptions per game realm for him. So I know AJ Brown's here, and it's, well, how do you do the divide by 3 thing? How does he get more? Well, it's not that he necessarily is a larger part of the offense. He's still a big part of the offense like he was over the second half. It's just that there is going to be more passing targets to begin with, and he's going to be it from beginning to end. So I do think when you're looking at Dallas Goedert this coming year, assuming, the passing game is functioning and working well, I think he makes a jump from 56 catches and 830 yards to probably something in the 70 catch neighborhood and over 900 yards.
Well, yeah, it's funny. My projection for him would be 70.
Mm-hmm.
He had, as you said, 56 last season. He missed the Tampa Bay game. Was that the concussion? We had a concussion. No, we had.
The Tampa Bay game was it a concussion? It was something. It might have been a concussion.
Yeah. And then the Dallas game, of course, because they already had the playoff position clinched, so they didn't play him. If you look at after Ertz was traded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Target share went up, no doubt. Of course, he didn't have AJ Brown to deal with, but he didn't have Ertz anymore, and the target numbers per average went up. But in terms of big games, he only had 4 big games, I'd say. 6 for 72 versus at Detroit, and that game, by the way, they blew him out.
Right.
He might have got his catches early. Then you have to fast forward a bit, and when he had the 2 huge back-to-back games at the Jets with Minshew.
Yep.
And then Hurts came back against Washington, where he had his biggest target game, 9 targets, 7 catches.
Which, by the way, he should have had an even better game. I think he had two pretty bad drops.
Drops,
game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they were bad. This is the issue with Goedert.
Yep. Because then he did it again the next week against the Giants, even though they won.
And then he has a spectacular play which got called back. Was it the game they lost at home to the Niners, where it was inside the red zone? He made some incredible play.
The Niner game. Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to go up. I'm giving him 70. You know what's really interesting? I know a decent amount of this came in the Jets and Washington game, but his average per catch was extremely high for a tight end, nearly just under 15 yards per catch. I don't know if it's going to be any higher than that, but I would agree, though, his target's going up. In fact, Sirianni and Roseman said at that dual press conference, they said the same thing back to back. We want them to get more targets, which is code for we want more throwing, and yes, they need to get the ball more.
There you go. So that's our prediction for Dallas Goedert. Big year coming up here in 2022. Next question.
I love him for fantasy. Goedert, this year. Love him. No more Ertz to deal with. And Zach,
okay, let's quick, because that's a great point. All right. I mean, Travis Kelce still number 1.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Kittle's injury history makes him a very dicey number 2. Is Waller number 2?
Nah, he's 30 now. It's a good question.
Did he have a bad year last year? I forget.
He got hurt. No, he got hurt. He missed a significant part of the season. I would say if you just wanted to go, who are the top 5 or 6 tight ends in fantasy? Kelce, the thing about Kelce is he's played through minor injuries. He's not slowed down in his 30s. He's dominant now. And remember, with Tyreek Hill being traded, I don't know who he's going to get. So I don't know how you're going to. They'll flex him out more. They'll have to move him around. He'll be great. Mark Andrews has got to be number 2. He was incredible last season.
Yep, he had a great year.
Although I should say, let me rephrase that. He should be 2, but if you want to have Kyle Pitts ahead of him, I have no problem.
Oh, that's a sneaky good one right there, Kyle Pitts. Except Marcus Mariota.
I know. Or Ritter. Yeah.
That's true, potentially.
And then Dalton Sergeant Schultz. He's Mr. Touchdown. I would probably have Hawkinson over Schultz. And then Schultz after that.
Do you have Goedert ahead of those guys, or
no? I've Goedert next. In my personal ranking, I'd have Goedert 7, then Waller, because Josh McDaniels will use a tight end.
All right, hold on. Let me go back to the beginning here. Kelce 1.
Yep.
Andrews, Pitts 2-3, right? Whatever way you want it.
Yep.
Goedert 4.
No, I would probably go
Kittle.
I would go Kittle.
Okay.
I would go Hawkinson.
Kittle, Hawkinson. Okay. That's a lot of faith in Ryan Hawkinson there, but okay.
TJ Hawkinson.
I'm sorry, TJ Hawkinson. Yeah.
Goddard. Waller. Dawson Knox.
Don't forget the kid in Miami, man. He's gonna have a big year, I think.
It's been such he's such an underachiever. That's why they didn't extend his
might be
contract.
more be the quarterback. It's not like he drops a lot of balls. It's just that
he's a finesse tight end. He doesn't win a lot, unfortunately. I was told so.
Right.
He's athletic.
You put Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the same field.
I know.
Dude,
their pass target group is ridiculous. You're right, and their spacing is going to be great.
Yeah, I'd take my chances with it.
Yeah, I mean he's been so frustrating for fantasy, but we digress. So there's your look there. You got us going fantasy there. Good job.
Yeah, I might have Goddard a little higher. That I might have him over Hawkinson, and Kittle's obviously a more productive tight end when healthy, but you got to really consider the fact that he's been beat up lately last few years. So, but
Kyle Pitts. I mean, he had 1,000 yards as a rookie, didn't he?
Kyle Pitts was incredible. Yeah,
yeah.
But again, now he may have two different quarterbacks thrown to him, so. You kind of looking for the sure thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
it's fair.
It should be good regardless.
Yep.
Hey, it's Jeff Mosher. Did you know in 2020, 49 million Americans were victims of identity theft? It ended up costing them a combined $56 billion. It's not just happening to people who fall for phishing scams or use bad passwords. 37 billion records in 2022 alone got hacked, from major social media sites to national grocery store chains, cryptocurrency exchanges, pharmacies, and phone and internet providers. Look, unless you want to give up the internet for good, preventing your personal information from leaking could be out of your control. That's why we're excited about Aura, sponsors of this video. Aura's app uses AI and machine learning to protect your identity online. You tell Aura what email addresses, account numbers, and phone numbers you want monitored. Their algorithms scour the dark web, data brokers, public records, and alert you to any criminal activity fast. Aura's app features a VPN that encrypts your browsing history and allows you to stay anonymous online. Also has antivirus software that blocks malware and viruses before they infect your devices. Someone becomes a victim of identity fraud every 14 seconds. Don't be the next one. Let Aura do the hard work of protecting your identity. Adam and I were shocked to see how many times Aura found our personal information on the dark web. If you sign up for a free trial, let us know how many times Aura found your information for you. Try Aura for 2 weeks free and see if your personal identifiable information has leaked to the dark web. You can start your free trial at aura.com/insidethebirds. Protecting your personal data doesn't have to be hard. Try 14 days for free. That's aura.com/insidethebirds. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video.
Next question from BJ King Mitchell. This is a good one.
Love it.
This is for you, and I'll respond with mine. One sleeper player to make the roster, dress, and play.
So I have two, and I have trouble deciding which one. See, and this is a difficult one because if you're a sleeper player to make the roster, you're probably not in line to play unless, somebody gets hurt or you're a rotational piece. My inclination is Tay Gowan. I know that
he can make it. There's certainly the opportunities there.
Right. Why would he play? He'd only play if somebody got hurt and he had to be forced into action. But that's very possible. I mean, both the corners are over 30, and plus with Jonathan Gannon maybe playing a little bit more pattern, he might be showing us some different stuff in nickel and dime with more corners than safeties for coverage reasons.
Yeah. And
they liked Gowan.
What's that?
They liked Gowan. They were considering drafting him 2 years ago in the 6th round. I forget who they took, but they were considering him.
It's true. And you mentioned in passing pattern matching. That was something we saw in training camp. Mm-hmm. We had heard they wanted to do, but they did very little of it last season. Now, I don't know what the reason was. Maybe they do more of it this season. Right. That's a good one. Who's your second one?
Tui Pelotu. Marlon Tuipulotu.
Oh, yeah, he's not a lock to make it. I mean, they're so deep at D tackle.
Right.
I mean, so are you counting on him? Okay, not only making it,
but I think he would play because, he could be your second part of your second string, like Bo Allen, second string run defensive line. Or if Jordan Davis gets hurt and you still want to play, you want to show a 3-4 look and have someone who can play the nose, and you think Marlon can do it, which we've reported a billion times. That's why they drafted him, that they felt he could be a nose and a 3 tech. He had that versatility, showed at USC. Jordan Davis, busts an ankle or gets a cramp, whatever, and you want that kind of look, you can put him in there in the middle against the run, or at very least in goal line situations as an extra lineman.
Yeah, see, the only thing with him is, let's assume for now he makes it. He's the 5th D tackle. You really can't make a case to keep 6. It's just,
you cannot.
You can't keep everybody. It's not a position you need to keep that many. Some teams only keep 4, and also you have Graham when they play a 4-front. Graham also could kick inside when you need him to, which he's done throughout his career. And then Sweat has done it, although he's way more comfortable playing outside. The issue is for Tuipulotu, even if he makes the team, are you going to dress 5 guys? It's one thing to make it, but how many weeks are you going to even dress 5?
Right. I said that, the question is complicated by the fact that if you're a fringe player just to make it, you usually don't play unless it's special teams. And I don't think that's what BJ King Mitchell is asking about, special teams.
Yeah, sure.
But so I'm saying the avenue to do that is if there's an injury, right? Or
Right.
a specific package like goal line where you can get somebody on the field. So I'm trying to answer the question, answer it in the spirit of the question.
Gotcha.
And again, hold on. Let's look at the defensive tackle picture here. Jordan Davis is 1. Fletcher Cox is 2. Javon Hargrave is 3. Who am I missing?
Milton Williams.
Oh, Milton, because he has end tackle versatility.
Yep.
Yeah, 4.
Yep.
So Tui would be the 5th. I agree with you on that. But again, there's a small roadmap for him to get on the field in certain situations if there's either injury or it's situational goal line.
Now that Titan game, like
Mhm.
that when they play Tennessee, which is your hard hat game.
Yeah.
This is your ultimate hide the quarterback for Tannehill. And the goal is just to have a good rotation going inside. When Henry struggles, when you force his shoulders to turn, this is what we've been told with it on the tape study. If he gets his shoulder squared, it's over.
Right.
You want him to get his body turned where he can't turn upfield.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope with Cox, Hargrave, Davis, Williams, it's a great 4-man rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And Fletcher's older now, well to his 30s, so you do wonder how many snaps he'll be able to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And they also with Fletcher, Cox, the question is now with the scheme and how much change they're going to have, and are they going to accommodate him? Because the word was the second half of the season, after he complained, Gannon tried to do what he could do to make him happy. But that's another thing to watch. That'll be one of sort of a training camp sidebar, is Gannon and Cox and how the scheme evolves, and can Cox have a sort of a bounce back type of year in the twilight of his career.
Good stuff. All right, who would you label as one sleeper player to make the roster dress and play?
I'm going to use Britton Covey.
That's
or
good
Covey.
one.
I'm sorry, it's Covey. Britton Covey. 2 reasons. Slot receiver, he's going to wind up beating out Greg Ward. That's a projection I'm making. We'll see if I'm right. And then the other thing is he's got a very good chance to be their punt returner this season.
Yeah, that's a really good answer right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would be mine.
I also had a feeling you might take that one, so I went.
Thank you. You're a gentleman, as far as you know.
As far as I'm told, yes.
Yeah, that's a Chevy Chase line.
Yep.
As far as you know. From Aaron Puga, after everything that happened with Wentz and his contract, do you think Howie will be more hesitant to offer Jalen a new contract, even if he plays well this season, for fear that he'll regress like Wentz did after he received his new contract? Maybe Howie and Hurts will make a team-friendly deal so they can move on from Hurts after year 2, and just in case he regresses in his play. Well, Aaron, we talked about his contract on that show last week when we looked at the potential of extending his contract after this season, what it would look like. Yeah, I mean, you can do you could do a 2-year, $60 million deal, where the base of that deal will be $30 million if they extend it. But to even extend it, he has to play well. They're not into just handing contracts out because you like somebody. They got to earn it.
Yep.
And he didn't show that he was ready to take that big step yet, but he's capable of doing it with coaching and changing up mechanics a little bit, and certain challenges that he had, which he had trouble coming over, particularly progression reading. If that happens this summer, you're probably going to see a big jump for him. I would not have thought so. Certain times last season where I go, wow, he looks so bad. Sometimes you go, you wonder if they'll bench him. They wouldn't, because they want to see it out with him. And then he'd bounce back. He'd have a good game. But to move this forward here, if he plays well enough, their history is that they extend players early. Mm-hmm. But on your question, I think it would be more team friendly. He would have to have, let's say he blew it up and threw 35 touchdowns. Everyone watching goes, wow, what a monster jump he made. They better extend him now. I mean, could you see something like that?
Well, I can just say, Adam, that in my feeling, in my opinion, what happened with Carson Wentz will not factor into the negotiation or the chart or the path that they chart with Jalen Hurts one single bit. I believe the Eagles pride themselves on the ability to extend contracts at a time that makes it more of a team-friendly deal than a player-friendly deal. I think they look at, say, like what happened with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, where they waited and waited, and then they had to sign him for the highest possible dollar. And a year later, they've got to get rid of Amari Cooper and just to keep two other players. And, the Eagles pride themselves on being able to extend guys early enough so that their cap number isn't as exorbitant compared to others who are at the position. And they understand that every once in a while, you're going to make a deal that backfires on you. That's just part of the risk of business, but you don't let the one outlier impact what has generally been a good philosophy for years. Back when it was, you can do it after 2 years. Now it's after 3. That is not what the Eagles do. They like to attack it first. And I would say 9 times out of 10, when they do that, they're happy with their situation. I don't believe the Carson Wentz fiasco will factor into their decision on what they do with Jalen Hurts. It's going to be about Jalen Hurts, how he plays, and how they see him both as a performer and what his value and evaluation are to them. And Carson Wentz is going to have nothing to do with it.
So I totally agree. In fact, the Wentz thing, if you recall, when they did it in the spring of 2019, and when the structure came out of the contract, it was so team friendly. Mm-hmm. $32 million a year for a guy. Now, remember, 17 brilliant, got hurt. 18 played for the back injury, very accurate, but was not throwing the ball down the field as much. 19 had his up and downs. 20 was a disaster. But you could always look at the end game and go, wow, that was a mistake. But it really wasn't at the time. No one saw that being a mistake. Right. I get the question, mm-hmm. but I agree with you. I don't think it has nothing to do with it. I mean, the thing that, here's another thing about Hurts that I really like. Now, I know he transferred because Tua took his job at Alabama, but he'll handle the issues any issues that are negative come up, he'll handle them well. Whereas Wentz did not handle a lot well. The challenges, the negativity, whatever's around him, he just didn't handle it well. And you look what happened with Indy. There's even a better example. Mm-hmm. Where the owner and general manager came after him publicly. Where do you see that happen? I've never seen it before.
You really don't.
But here's the thing though with Hurts, and I'll point back to that Chiefs game. I know they had to throw it a lot, but I was told that was his best time in game. Last season was the Kansas City game. Made big throw after big throw. The problem is his inability to sustain it, where he drops his eyes. Mm-hmm. He moves for no reason. This is exactly what doomed Kevin Cobb. Kevin Cobb coming out the 2010 season, mm-hmm. when he lost his job to Vic after 1 or 2 games. They signed him to a short-term deal, 1 year for $10 million, fully guaranteed. Mm-hmm. He had terrible habits coming out of the preseason. He kept moving to his right. He kept he would roll out to his right. I was told absolutely this was not scheduled. He would do it on his own. Either he was scared to get hit or he didn't trust their offensive line. Like with Hurts, that's not the issue. The issue is he's got some habits that they need to keep work on. He's got to get it. Like the stuff, as you mentioned a couple weeks ago, and it's absolutely true. Cosell mentioned it on Sirius XM with us because he's studying all his third down stuff. And he said he saw some good stuff, but the thing is, he's got to hang in there. When the play's there to be made, you have to make it. Even if it's inaccurate, okay. You can watch the tape. Maybe his feet weren't set, whatever the case may be. But when you move for no reason and there's no rush, it drives coaches crazy. And this is when you get yelled at as a player.
There you go. All right. So let's move on to the next question.
This is an interesting question from Crane Holmes. Who would you say is the new defensive leader of this team? No one has stepped up since Malcolm Jenkins left. My first response would be, I don't know if you could say as a rookie he'll do it, but you will watch Nakobe Dean will be not only one of their defensive leaders.
I knew you were going to say that too.
Yeah, everything you and I heard from our people at University of Georgia was just wow. We know he's very smart intellectually. I get that part, but that doesn't make you a leader. Your leader is your vocal leadership.
Yep.
Lead by example, of course, doing the right things on and off the field. The way his style of play, which is very physical, and just being a guy that Kirby Smart, we heard, was a guy that thought he's one of the best players he's ever coached. So that I'm just telling you, this guy's a stud, and he's going to be one. Anyone else you can think of? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that even with a diminished role, as long as he's healthy, active, and get into which we assume he'll be, is that Brandon Graham is still the leader of this defense. I mean, he would have been last year. I think his presence was missed, obviously, from a leadership standpoint after he was out for the year, because he is the leader of the defense. I think the torch will probably be passed to Nakobe Dean, and it won't take long. In fact, Malcolm, the torch was passed to him pretty quickly when he came to the Eagles. He was known as a leader, but he did not assert himself. So he led by example. But if you remember, his first year with the Eagles is the year that D'Amico Ryans tore his Achilles for the second time in his career. I think it was the same place too, in Houston, right? Or were the Eagles playing in Houston that year? Either way, yes, it was.
Sounds right. Yeah,
he tore his Achilles, and everybody looked to Malcolm, and then Malcolm stepped up and became the leader of the defense. And it didn't take long. So I can, if Nakobe Dean is what he's supposed to be, and he's very talented, he will assert himself. But this will be for as long as Brandon Graham is healthy and on the field, even if he's not starting anymore, whatever, he will be the leader of the defense.
Okay, let me give you mine on. I'll take your question to the next level on offense. AJ Brown will be the unquestioned leader. It'll take a little time because he's got to get to know his teammates.
No, is that separate from Jalen Hurts? The quarterback is usually always the leader.
He is, but you say that, would you have called Wentz a leader? I don't know.
Well, I would say poor leadership did him in this last year.
But there's a vocal leadership. There's quiet leadership. You set by example where you don't say much, but you like Devontae Smith is a quiet leader, but because he does everything by the book because he played for Nick Saban. It's just the way he is. AJ Brown's an emotional leader. He's going to wind up, folks, if he could stay on the field and be healthy. Everyone's going to want his jersey. Is he still wearing number 11? I assume he's wearing.
I assume so. Yeah.
He is just an unbelievable guy. I've heard about him since he was a rookie, and I'm still kind of stunned that they were pull it off. I know they gave up a first and third and had to pay him, but he's a guy, if he holds up physically, is just going to dominate. And he wins every route just about. Talking to someone with the Titans, the tape showed them when they had graded every season since his rookie season. He wins almost all of his routes, which is unheard of because he's a leverage player. Obviously he's very well built. So I can't wait to watch him in training camp.
Yeah, the offense has some good like leader there doesn't even have to be one, but I agree with you. AJ Brown's a great leader. Jason Kelsey, of course, is a leader by both. But
for the future, right?
Yeah,
for the future.
Definitely. But yeah, AJ Brown, I can see him being in the middle of the huddle, like getting everybody fired up. Of course, and Lane, Jalen.
Yep. Landon Dickerson's an ass kicker. He's one of my breakout players this season. We'll talk about breakout players closer to training camp, but he's because his tape got the first 4 weeks were a little because he was a little stiff coming back from the yet another knee surgery. But he's an ass kicker, man. This guy's going to be interesting.
Definitely.
All right, good question.
What do we got next?
This is interesting.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
This is okay. This is not quite a question, but Andrew, I don't know if this is from Andrew Smith. I don't have a question as such, but could you incorporate more stories or tales that you were unique and potentially unheard from your time working in the league or covering the league? I personally enjoy the anecdotes of players, coaches, and owners inside views of the league when they pop up during podcasts because you never hear from them. Otherwise, it's nice to take a peek behind the curtain. Right. Bill Polian, Joe Banner, Rick Spielman, all the executives we've had and former players we've had, and obviously Q&A, and Todd Hermans and all the other players we've had. B. West we've had on, and we had Brian Dawkins on a couple years. I mean, we from time to time we tell stories,
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we did last year. We did a whole stories and anecdotes podcast.
Oh, Andrew, you have to find that that show. I had Jeff literally almost fainting. He was laughing so hard he actually couldn't stand up. He couldn't sit down. I told a story about when I was involved with professional wrestling with World Championship Wrestling back in 93 and 94 before Eric Bischoff took over. And my friend Ike Richmond, who I went to high school with, grew up with, we would go to the Philadelphia Civic Center, and there were a bunch of long stories. And the one, we worked for another organization which became ECW. Right before it became ECW, they would bring in these wrestlers, old-time wrestlers like Abdullah the Butcher. And you have to hear my story. Jeff didn't know it was coming, and he literally, I remember watching back because people went out of their
finishing
minds.
the podcast.
Right. Well, the people loved your face because you were tearing. When you have a great laugh, like it's when you don't know it's coming and it's unbelievably funny, you tear up sort of from laughter.
Yeah.
And you were,
I was in stitches.
You were great. It was just great. I'm like, God, I don't know. I'll have to be able to top this one. But
so do you have anything you want to regale Andrew Smith and then our listeners
save it
with?
I mean, we want to get the other questions.
Yeah.
What you've told the Mets manager? Wait,
Sparky
you
Lyle?
told the
I thought he was
Sparky Lyle story.
Yeah, but I think he was he's looking for NFL type story.
Right. I know. And it
I'll give you a quick one.
Yeah,
very quick, very funny. We'll move on, and then we'll do another one of those.
Sure.
It happened during the Chip Kelly era. I was walking around the Eagles locker room, and a defensive lineman stopped me because he was looking at me strange, and he stopped me, and he was looking at my shirt. And back then, I'm working for Comcast Sportsnet, which is NBC.
Oh, you just told this story before.
I told this story?
Well, no, wait, no, I'm sorry.
I don't think on the pod.
Go ahead. This is hilarious. Go ahead.
And he's looking. I'm wearing. I always wear the free stuff that Comcast or NBC gave you. It's shirts with the peacocks on it.
Did you have to wear it though? Were you required to wear it?
Well, you were to be on air, and I was on air pretty much in some form or fashion every day during that time period. So yeah, and plus it's easier to wear free stuff.
Do we need an ITB shirt?
Anything. What's that?
Should we get an ITB shirt?
We will. I know we keep threatening ITB merch one day. We're gonna do it.
I know.
We're definitely gonna do it. So anyway, he stops me and he goes, "You work for NBC Sport?" Or he goes, "You work for Comcast Sportsnet?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "Can you get me free cable?" I said, "That's not the division of Comcast that I work for."
I mean, I wouldn't know if I wasn't from here. I probably would have figured.
I know, but the bigger issue is you're a millionaire.
Okay, well, it's so great. Wait, it was was it Clifton Gathers or Clayton Gathers?
I didn't name the name on purpose. I said nameless, but if you put it out there, yes, it was Clayton Gathers.
No big deal. That's awesome. He was a giant. Was he 6'8", 6'9"?
He was 6'7". Yeah.
Okay.
He was a big dude. But he came from a family of NFL players.
Oh, Jumpy Gathers is his dad.
Jumpy Gathers was either his dad or his uncle. Yeah. So for him to ask me if I could get him free cable, I was
honestly, I'll tell you, I've done that with friends when they've worked for corporations. Hey, could you get me, could you get me one of these? I was like, dude, we don't work in that division. Why would you ask me that? I'm like, oh, I didn't know. You don't know.
I'll give you another real quick one. It was at the NFL Combine, and Adam, I'm not naming the names, so if you know, don't do it. I don't want to be doing that, and I'm sorry. Listen, but this is why Adam and I are good at our jobs. We don't put other people's names out there. But
that's who would care. Go on.
No, for this story, not for the guy. That one's fine, but for this next one, I once witnessed an NFL head coach almost get into a fight with another NFL coach at a bar. It wasn't an NFL head coach.
I don't know this one. I don't think. Go ahead.
Until some people were smart enough to get this guy out of the bar and to a different place. And then I did see that same NFL coach who almost got into a fight later at a club dancing on the club music. It was kind of funny to see an NFL head coach getting up on the dance floor and everything.
On the dance floor, was that at Ike and Jonesy's by any chance?
Adam, it was too many drinks for me to remember.
Because there's a bar that closed, a rock and roll bar, sort of like an old, like a 60s bar.
No, this was like a club, Adam. Like
a club?
Yeah, like where you would not expect to see an NFL.
Why were you going in a club? You were going in a club? Jeez.
Yeah, I'm still young at that point. I'm still young, and plus that's where everybody was kind of headed to. So
All right. Next one from Javon Harris. Javon asks, how will Carson Wentz play in the offense for the Commanders this year? Will they be a run-heavy offense where they'll allow Carson to pass the ball 35 to 40 times? Attempts game. Okay, couple things. Scott Turner's Norv Turner's son. Norv Turner's one of the best run game designers in NFL history. The reason why Scott and why Ron brought Scott over, good run game guy. It's going to be it'll be heavy run. They have Antonio Gibson, who was playing hurt last year with a shin fracture. They drafted Brian Robinson as a running back from Alabama. They'll run the ball a ton. This is what Ron Rivera wants. I'm still, other than Belichick, because Belichick's sort of an omnipresent offensive defensive coach. Almost all defensive head coaches in the history, at least years I've covered the league for 20 years, they all want to run the ball first. Even Matt Rule now is going over to the dark side. He wants to run the ball. Doesn't want to throw.
He'll be the first coach fired in 2000.
Well, now, when you have Sam Bradford and Sam Darnold, I could understand that. But so to answer your question, I would say low 30s, unless their defense stinks like it did for a big part of the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would say low, like 32 attempts per game, so somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Wentz, when he was in his heyday, when Wentz was special, he could handle as many attempts as you want to give him. But the injury history, the other problem with Carson Wentz, and it drives me absolutely out of my mind. I used to, in the infancy of Inside the Birds, I would cry, why won't Wentz check the goddamn ball down? Sorry for saying that, but using that term, but it would drive me up a wall. Check the ball down. He won't do it. Nyheim Hines did nothing last year. Why? Wentz wouldn't check the ball down.
I'm a little worried about Antonio Gibson from a fantasy standpoint. He had the third most carries though in the league that last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But he's a guy who can catch the ball and make things happen. So they're going to have to call screens to force Carson to throw it to him.
And the ball. McKissick's, and I don't know why McKissick didn't take that deal with the Bills. They wanted him badly, and he turned them down. Heck, the Bills were shut down for McCaffrey. They were trying anyone who could catch the football. They wanted him.
Right.
And McKissick backed out of a verbal agreement, and he's back with Washington. He got a nice contract from Washington, but he might rue it that day. But oh well.
The one thing, Adam, I feel that separates Ron Rivera a little bit from the other run-heavy guys is that while he always does look to run and establish the run, I feel just from watching Rivera's career from Carolina to now that if he has a quarterback in a good rhythm, he will not be afraid to dial up some, like as the game settles, he will not be afraid to pass the ball around a little bit. I've seen him with Cam Newton, but he's always wants to establish, he wants to establish the run like a Pete Carroll, like who else are you mentioning?
Zimmer.
Zimmer. But I feel like he's not as tight as those two as far as, if things are going well passing, we're still gonna run. I've seen him open it up when he needs to open it up.
Sure.
All right, so good stuff.
Yep, good stuff. From Jerry Armitage. Jerry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, or I think it's spelled like that.
Right? Yeah.
If Jalen Hurts has just a so-so season, do you think the Eagles draft the quarterback next year? Yes.
Yes.
They're that. and I'm going to use this again. Your guide, you'll know if he's doing well. If they're run heavy, he won't finish the season as the starter. I'm just telling you, they're not going to put up with being a running team anymore.
Yeah,
it will never work for this ownership and this GM, and it's just I'm so fascinated to see if they come out throwing in week 1 against Detroit. I'm really interested to see that. So what do you think they'll move on?
That game really intrigues me. I'm not going to overblow the Lions or anything like that, but their offensive line very much improved. They brought in the receiver from Jacksonville on a 1-year deal, whose name is all of a sudden eluding me.
DJ Chark.
Chark, right?
Yep.
Got Hawkinson. We've seen Jared Goff play well when he has a good offensive line and a running game. They've got the 2 running backs there. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not telling you the Lions are an excellent team, but it is in Detroit. I think the line already is 10.5. I think that's a little high.
Wow, is it 10.5?
I think so. I'm expecting that to be an interesting game. If the Eagles come out of that game with a 17-point win, I'll be like, wow, maybe I'll be much closer to, man, this team might really be it than it was in 2017.
Careful.
What's
you
that?
Jumped me. You jumped my bleep when when after the Atlanta game.
Well,
they still did make the play.
About how week 1 you can't just dude, anyway.
You were like, what are you doing? Stop. I'm like, okay.
That's true.
You were right. I mean, it was a total mirage, that game.
Yes, it was.
But
no, I am sort of expecting the lot. I mean, they obviously had the number. They brought in also. They got the number 2 pick, and they picked Hutchinson, Williams and then they traded up to get Jameson Williams. We'll see if he's on the field by then. I don't know, but I'm just saying. I sort of low key liked what they've done for the last year.
Yeah, Charles Harris has been. Charles Harris revived his career with them. He's been a total bust for Miami.
Good point.
They're not very good in the secondary. That's where they're really bad.
Right.
I would think they'll come out throwing.
Yeah.
But look, Amon-Ra St. Brown was terrific. Second half of the season, Chark, you mentioned.
Yep.
Josh Reynolds revived his career after stink really bad with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Played against the Eagles a bunch over his career.
Yeah, they just don't feel like an expansion team anymore, like they did a year or 2 ago.
They had the worst receiver corps I've ever seen.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad.
Terrible. Embarrassingly bad. All right.
Especially when Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt and they were really down. That was
bad. Okay. From Evan Alfano, it seemed like last year we started the season with a 3-4 front on defense, which didn't work because of our personnel. We eventually switched back to a 4-3. It's actually a 5-2, but anyway. And had much more success because it better suited our personnel. Based on the moves we've made this offseason, Davis, Reddick, White, others, Gannon's going to attempt to run a 34 front again. They actually didn't run a lot of it, Evan, we were told.
Yeah,
I don't know
I have some issue with the kind of the presumption of this question, but go ahead.
Yeah, they ran an under front, so it looked like Seattle's front.
Right.
Seattle's looks like a 3-4, but it's a 4-3.
Right.
But should we be worried that this isn't going to work again? Gosh, like Josh Sweat, Barnett, Cox, Graham have historically played better in 43 front. Yes. In fact, if you remember, Josh Sweat was struggling after he signed his extension.
Mm-hmm.
He had a streak. It wasn't just about sacks. He just was making plays.
Right.
But then he said Fletch had issues with Gannon scheme last year. He sure did. Yeah,
Right.
he vocalized that. It just feels like while certain guys were added this year to play 34, other players will suffer as it doesn't fit what they do best. What are your thoughts?
So let's break this question into 2 parts. Let's address the first part, which I believe there's some inaccuracy that we need to clear up. They played the same defensive structure from beginning to end, which was first and second down, trying to get in the run. It's 5-2. Jernard Avery was as the strong side linebacker, was the 5th guy on the defensive line. When they wanted to rush the passer, they take Avery off, and they're more of a 4-3 look. What changed from first half to second half wasn't 3-4 to 4-3. Actually, it was zone to man, or man to zone, and there were some personnel changes too that involved getting Alex Singleton off the field, Davion Taylor on it, at linebacker, and also taking the safeties and moving one into the box as opposed to trying to have the 2 shell coverages and the quarters coverages that they started. That was the structure of the defense that changed more so than 4-3-3-4. So let's start with that. I do believe Jonathan Gannon is going to try to do a lot of what he did last year, and he believes he has more pieces to fit that. But the second part of the question is fair, and I don't sort of understand yet what kind of role Josh Sweat is going to have if they want to have 2 stand-up outside linebackers in what would look like a 3-4 defense. I sort of thought it was going to be more 5-2 again, where you've got Jordan Davis there. You may have Fletcher Cox on one side and Javon Hargrave on another. So that's like your 3 down linemen, interior linemen, with Hassan Reddick down on the line as an outside linebacker. And what are you doing with Sweat? Are you handing dirt as a 5th down lineman, or is he standing up? Is he both? Because I don't know that Josh Sweat is somebody that should be a full-time stand-up outside linebacker, because he should not be dropping into coverage. And I would agree. I would say the same about Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. So I'm very curious to see as what they are doing with the outside edge player opposite Hassan Reddick.
Oh, it'll be Barnett, I would think. Yeah, because when they play 3-4, assuming they do, you're
on first down.
Oh no, well actually it'll be Sweat first.
It'll be Sweat. It's got to be Sweat.
No, you're right. It'll be Sweat. I would think. See, Reddick is he's small. He's not a rundown guy. Any pass situations he's going to be in there because to rush the passer.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying $15 million a year. He's got to be on the field.
I know, but I don't
every
see him,
down.
No, but I don't see him playing 90% of the snaps or 80% of the snaps. He might be 60%. I don't know.
That's a lot. Again, and listen, if it works, it works. But you're talking about a lot of money for him and Fletcher Cox to not play more than 60% of snaps.
I don't know.
Look, they're deep, so they could be very creative. They could be very versatile, and Hassan Reddick. I know he's not a good run stopper, but the whole point of being the 5th person on the defensive line is just to set the edge. And all you needed to be is a presence and have speed and make that running back say, I see color, other team's color on the edge. I've got to funnel it back inside. It's not even about making the tackle. It's just literally being about the edge setter, so to speak, that funnels the run toward the middle.
Yep. No
so
doubt.
If that's not what Hassan Reddick is doing on first down, and if he's off the field, then I'm like, well, then
we'll ask our Panthers guy as an overhang player how they used him.
Yeah.
In terms of when they played because they were a hybrid defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. Remember, it's not like Cox hasn't played in 34. Billy Davis's defense was a 34 front when he was the Eagles D coordinator, Chip Kelly. So it's not like he hasn't played it. And BG did. In fact, remember when BG had to play in a 34, we were wondering people were wondering if he could do it. He's fine.
Yeah, and he, after some struggles, he wound up kind of getting it. I mean, he was asked to be in coverage at times, and there were, by that second year or third year, there were some pretty good reps. But in general, that is not what he should be doing, and especially at his age, coming off Achilles.
Yep.
And I don't think that Jonathan Gannon is thinking he's going to do. I think Brandon Graham is going to be an edge or interior rusher in a 4-3 structure on passing downs, pass defense downs.
Yeah, and because you don't play a 34 in obvious pass situations. You always play a 43.
Right.
As Greg Cosell told me years ago, sitting and watching tape with him, he explained to me what the thought process was with that. It's like, makes sense to me.
Yeah, because most 3-4 defenses have that 350-pound nose tackle, and you just take them off the field when you want to rush the pass.
Was it Corey Hampton? Wasn't he? Was it Hampton?
Casey Hampton.
Casey Hampton. For the Steelers for many years, really good player. All right, last one from Manish David. If Jonathan Gannon were to move on after the season, who are some of the candidates that come in and use the personnel? If the players are designed for scheme fit, then what percentage of defensive players get turned over again with a new coordinator? Well, here's the thing. If you look at the personnel, they now have scheme versatility. They could play any front they want because we don't know if Graham will be back next year, but if he's not, which is realistic, Barnett's on what, a 2-year deal?
Barnett is on it's really structured like a 1-year deal. Right?
Yeah.
Derek Barnett. Yeah.
Yeah. And Josh Sweat's on a extension. Sweat could play both. They've got inside linebackers for 34, and White's played outside in terms of strong side or weak side. He can do that. Jacoby Dean could play. He could play in any scheme, 3-4-4-3 inside, of course, 34. The good thing is you've got scheme versatility now, to answer your question.
Right.
So now we don't know. We'll see what happens with Gannon if he gets to be a head coach or whatever. But I think, to answer your question, I think they're going to be okay. Where they were not last year. They just didn't. First of all, they didn't have good enough talent. We probably criticized Jonathan Gannon. You tell me if I'm right about this, more than any defensive coach they've had since we've done the show. Am I wrong? We had criticisms from Schwartz, no doubt, but this is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've criticized kind of position coaches for failure to develop talent, whether wide receiver coaches or cornerback coaches. But from a coordinator standpoint, although we were pretty tough on Press Taylor too,
we were. But this is because this was coming from. We were lucky enough last year to get a lot of advanced pro personnel people from other teams just buried Gannon's scheme.
Yeah.
Very vanilla, soft, doesn't challenge.
Right.
We're surprised some of the games were as close as they were.
I'm not sure this is going to change either, to be honest with you.
After
hearing his press conferences, I'm just not sure.
What do you mean by that?
Just the way he spoke in his, it was about a month ago about, I'm going to do what I do. I've got personnel now. I don't know that you're going to see this guy. Listen,
what does he do?
That's why my point is like, are you going to be a little bit more diversified on your back end pre and post snap? Are you going to blitz a little more? I mean, you got some weapons here. You got some guys you can move around. Are you going to do what your buddy Brandon Staley does? But he sort of seemed to suggest in my opinion, he suggested that people have a inaccurate view of what's considered being an aggressive defense. That's how I interpreted his words to be.
I have a very bad feeling because I know he doesn't like the blitz much. Of course, because Schwartz, it was like liverwurst for him. He's like,
right. But if Jim Schwartz wasn't going to blitz, he at least had a structure of a defense that was conducive to getting at the quarterback with his front four. Right. Sure. Right. So I don't know what Jonathan Gannon.
I'm with you.
I'm very curious about it.
It will not end well for Gannon if they, with all the money they've spent in free agency, I mean draft picks and the guys they brought in. It just I don't know about him after this season. I mean I know they like him personally. They think he's smart, but 2 years of this, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. He's got to do a better job, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because the talent level wasn't there. They've got it now. They have to be better. Like if they're not better, then there's something seriously going on here that we don't know about because Gannon could say what he wants about he's going to do what they do, whatever the hell that means.
Right.
Here's another thing that NFL people always tell me: your defense has to have an identity of some sort. Blitzing.
Yep.
Okay, Schwartz, get after what 9 front. You win with pressure from your 4. You don't blitz anybody else. Okay, numbers are always there with the pass. Generally always there. Don't get a lot of turnovers, but what do you do? Let me throw this before we get out of here. Did they have any kind of identity last year defensively? Anything discernible?
Defensive identity last year.
I mean, they played a 5-2. Okay, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, no, I can't say that they were known. Honestly, their identity was that they were going to die by 1,000 cuts. I mean, their identity was they were not going to pressure you, and they were going to try to rely on just scheme, and it's just a vanilla scheme didn't
work.
No, it didn't work. Their identity was we are going to prevent explosive plays, and they did. They did not get burned for a ton of explosive plays the way they had been burned the year before. Yeah, but they got burned by everything underneath them, which is not. It's like, well, just because you're not giving up explosive play doesn't mean you're any much better because now you're just letting teams march all up and down the field.
the Chief game. Now I get it. It's Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and all that. That was an embarrassment. That defensive game plan was terrible. Didn't work. It was on your point. Soft defense gave him so many. And by the way, Tyreek Hill just beat the coverage. They tried to stop him and just beat it.
Right.
The Raider defense was horrendous. The first Dallas game was an embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, he played too soft, and we know, hearing from other teams, the comments we would hear through the team from the quarterbacks were very easy to figure out. Well, you better start disguising that has to happen. No more of this vanilla stuff.
All right, I have one more question for you before we get out of here. But before we do that, I want to turn everyone's attention to our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick also for a word from our other great friends, including Sky Motor Cars. And if you happen to stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal.
You will. Trust me.
So it sort of piggybacks from the last question, the whole Jordan Davis thing, because I think people think that based on how Anish asked the question, who could come in and use this personnel, people think that if Gannon gets fired, that they have to bring in a defensive coordinator who is versed in the 3-4 defense or the multiple front defense. And I'm not I don't think that's the case. And again, with Jordan Davis, Adam, what their expectation of him is 2, 3, 4 years down the road is that he doesn't have to just be a 0. I mean, he can be a 3 technique type, a Fletcher Cox type player, because he can move. He's got all the great lateral movement. We know he's not a finesse player, and we know he's not a great upfield burst player yet, but he could be because he has all the tools to be able to do it. He just has to kind of get that schooling. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but he can be a 4-3 defensive tackle.
Oh, sure. No doubt. Jordan Davis, we haven't really talked about him much since the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of gifts that he has. We just, he's still also raw, but he's explosive. The length is great. This athleticism is amazing for a guy as big as he is. He's another training camp story. I can't wait to see how they use him. And look, we were told well before the draft that they're going to run some 34 this season, but I'm just not sure what that's going to look like in terms of pressure and turnovers and zone versus man. There's a lot we need to learn about the back end of this defense.
Definitely.
They've got better talent. I'd say, okay, they got Jaquaski Tart. They've got Marcus Epstein's a full-time starter. They really like Bradbury's an upgrade over Nelson.
Kaiser White.
Kaiser White, linebacker, and obviously Kobe Dean. And Reddick, of course. But if you don't get after it, if you don't start put consistent pressure on the quarterback, I'm not so sure. Look, Gannon, I'm sure the defense will be better. I'm not suggesting that he's in trouble. I'm just saying it won't be good for him if this defense doesn't improve. It has to improve because the talent level is better.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody tells us how smart the guy is. Okay, year one, first year's a play caller, wasn't great, was underwhelming. Talent level wasn't good enough. There are no more excuses. This defense got a lot of talent.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of, along that vein, somebody asked me a question. It was Mike Gill in one of our Football at 4 interviews. He said, who's the new player that needs to have the biggest impact for the Eagles to be what they want to be? And I felt like it was a lead in to saying, well, he said overall. And to me, it felt like a lead in to say A.J. Brown because of how good A.J. Brown is and how good he can make and what this offense is supposed to be. But I went with Hassan Reddick because if, for whatever reason, Jonathan Gannon doesn't use him the right way, or if Hassan Reddick is not what he has been the last 2 years as a pass rusher, the defense will be entirely in trouble. Because the one thing we knew they needed was a true, fierce pass rusher from the edges. They lacked that last year. Not that Josh Sweat wasn't good, but he's a power pass rusher. They needed a spin. They needed someone who can just bam, be up on that quarterback in a second or two. And that's what Reddick does best. And so,
well said.
I think that Reddick really is the most important off-season addition who really needs to be what they expect him to be.
I agree. No, that he is a game changer when he is at his best. He runs by the tackle. He's so fast.
Right. He takes the quarterback by surprise. He get hits. You get fumbles. Yeah.
And his recovery, like if he falls down, he'll get up and make the tackle. Like he's done that. He's
right.
I don't know what Carolina. I don't know what Arizona was thinking the first 3 years of his career. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they finally got it right late in his career with them, and the Panthers loved him.
Yep.
But once they got wind, we were told of what the Eagles were offering, and it was fair, by the way. It's market value.
Oh yeah.
They just, and it's funny. Brian Burns. They clearly did not, because they're going to want to pay Burns. So my thinking is they didn't want to pay both pass rushers, Burns and Reddick.
I would agree with you. I think Burns is probably the better overall player anyway.
He's got scheme versatility.
Yeah, a little bit more versatile. Yeah, exactly. A little bit more. I don't want to call Hassan Reddick a one-trick pony. I'm just saying Burns does other things really well too. But yeah, and then they got Derek Brown, who I think really came in as an interior lineman. He's played really well last year from a pressures and doing what he's supposed to do. I know he didn't have a ton of sacks, but he's an interior lineman. They have a good defense, Carolina.
They do. Phil Snow.
Obviously they're going to get the cornerback back, Horn.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of year they have if McCaffrey can stay healthy and what they can do. But yeah, all right. So that wraps it up. That was a really awesome Ask ITB segment. I think we had some really good questions. Enjoyed the answers. Again, hope everybody enjoyed their July 4th holiday. We'll be back Thursday in the morning with another Inside the Birds podcast. So that'll do it for this one. This Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks as always to our producer, Tyler Strasser, doing a great job. And a big thanks to you for flying with us inside the bird.